Hey Gary, let's get right into it. You are the host of the BitBlock Boom podcast. You'd like to teach a lot of Bitcoin baby boomers about how Bitcoin works. If I were a baby boomer, what would you tell me on what I need to know about what Bitcoin is, how it works, why it could benefit me?
It's a lot of the same stuff you tell anyone, but I found this will sound really stupid, but I found the first thing you need to cover before you cover anything else is that it's not a coin. It's not that little B coin that you see on people representing all the time. I was looking to see if I
Yeah,
have one here because I have so many people I've explained it to, and then they go, "Do you have one on you?" And I go, "Oh wow, I really did a really bad job."
yeah.
If you ask me that question after I've talked about it for 10 minutes. So I think that's one of the first things. I know it sounds stupid, but I think that's something you need to cover right away. It's not a coin. This is digital, and no
Yeah.
matter, and even if you say that in your sentence, which I'm sure everybody does, they don't seem to pick it up because they're just, most boomers just aren't as illiterate on the computer and
Yeah.
technical stuff. They didn't grow up with it. They never had a computer, many of them until they got a phone. If they didn't have a phone, they may still not have a computer.
It's not like one of
So,
these coins. That's what I just wanted to
yes,
show.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. It's amazing. Yeah. And I'm going, and first of all, you're going, wow, I did a really bad job explaining that. And I know I've explained this hundreds and hundreds of times, and I know I have like a super great understanding. And then the next thing you go is, wow, do they really think I'm walking around with $70,000 in my pocket? I mean,
Yeah.
but that's a question I get asked. Though I used to. Now I cover that right off the bat to get rid of that. And then, you know, I was talking to someone the other night who a friend I hadn't seen in a long time, and we went out to dinner, and I was explaining Bitcoin to. He asked, "What do you do?" And we were talking about YouTube, and he goes, "Well, what do you watch?" I watch, and he was naming all this stupid stuff, just like girls going,
Brain
not
rot.
girls going. Yeah, yeah, for sure. And I said,
Yeah.
"Well, I watched mostly financial stuff." And he goes, "Wow, I would have never thought that." And I said, "Yeah, because that's what I tell people. I'm in finance. I don't say I do Bitcoin because then some people aren't interested into it and they take it the wrong way. So I don't want to get into it if they're really not wanting to know. I got
I
better
actually think
things.
it scares them. I think it
Yeah,
scares them. Like exactly your point. It scares them, so they don't want to listen to it anymore. So
yeah, I agree completely. But I told him I did finance, and he's like, "Wow, I never thought we hadn't seen each other in 20 years." And he goes, "I really didn't see that coming." I said, "Yeah," and he started asking more and more questions. So I finally said, "Well, I'm into Bitcoin." He goes, "Well, I know nothing about that, but I know a lot of people who tell me that there are people who made a lot of money off of it. And there are a lot of them are, I have people all the time tell me, oh, my son, his boomer friends will say, my son's a millionaire, or something, because he got into it early. I don't know if he's met any that sons got in early enough to be billionaires, but I said, I just don't understand it. And I kept saying one thing, another, and another. And then I finally, maybe the third thing I said, you really got to quit thinking of this like a stock if you want to find out. You got to think of it like an asset class. It's the first new asset class we've had in our lifetimes, and it'll be the only one we'll probably have in our lifetimes. And then he was like really interested for some reason. So he asked me, my wife was on my ass. She's always on my ass for talking about it. So I try not to talk about it. I used to not be able to help myself, and that's the way it is when you're new at Bitcoin. You feel like you need to share this with everybody because they're friends and you're not going to make any money. It's certainly not going to make your Bitcoin go up, but you want to help them so they don't miss out.
yeah.
So I used to talk about it so much, and now I rarely bring it up anymore. And I don't like doxing myself necessarily that much to everybody in the world, which I guess I'm doing now. So I guess I don't mind it that much. But he asked me if we could go to breakfast one day next week, and I said sure. And we went to breakfast, and he was going on, and he couldn't grasp it and stuff. And then I mentioned that they're EFTs. Oh my God, he was ready to go. Oh, you didn't tell me that. I could get an EFT. And I was like, well, yeah, but that's really not the same thing because I don't care about any of that other stuff. And that's where we've dropped it. But I think even if you get them into an EFT just with a little bit, it's kind of like getting them to dollar cost average. If you can get them to have some skin in the game, then they're going to check what their balance is, hopefully, and they're going to say, wow, this is pretty interesting. I'm making some money here. And then they're going to research it some more. And then next thing you know, you've orange pilled them, or they orange pilled themselves. And actually, I think the best way to do that is dollar cost averaging, to be honest with you, because they get the updates. They just got $50 worth of Bitcoin, or $20, or $100, or $1,000, according to what their budget is. So they look at their balance,
Yeah.
because a lot of people will buy it. You can talk. I don't think it's hard to talk someone into buying Bitcoin
No, it's
one
not.
time, but that doesn't do them that much good to buy it one time. Sure, it's better than having none, but if they never go back and look at it, I mean, you didn't really do them any favors. You didn't do anything for them, to be honest with you.
I think
In my opinion.
I think the dollar cost averaging works so well because if the price goes down, they get excited. They think, oh yeah, I'm gonna buy more with the cheap. I'm gonna get more for the same amount of money. But if the price goes up, they think, oh, I just made some money and I want to make more money, so I'll put more into it. And it's just almost like a mental kind of thing.
Well, I agree with you that, but you got to get to that point.
Right.
You got to be watching and get to that point. And a good example is a guy I've known since second grade, and I'm 70 now, so I've known him a long time.
Yeah.
In 2017, we were talking, and I said, "Are you familiar with this?" And he's, "No, I never heard of it." And I said, "I'm telling you, you need to buy some of this." Well, I said, "You'll be able to tell people someday you bought under $5,000, and they'll think you're a rocket
Wow.
scientist." And so he bought $3,000 worth. So he bought, over half a Bitcoin. And then, back in 2020, when it ran up really big and it got up to like 69 or whatever it was, 69.7 or whatever, I called him and said, "Hey, have you looked at your Bitcoin?" And 3 years have gone by, you know, and he goes, "No, I haven't looked at it since I bought it." And that's the way a lot of people are. And so that's why I say dollar cost averaging is so much better. So I said, "Well, look at the price." And he said, "Wow, I've really done well with that." And he was shocked. I said, "Yeah, you need to start dollar cost averaging this at least." I think he was buying maybe $50 a month or something, just to do it. But I said, yeah, I gave him where to buy it at and blah, blah, blah. And then 3 months later, he called me and said, "Hey, I just want to let you know, I get it now. I just bought $10,000 worth." And I've had that happen so many times. I had a guy call me and say, "Hey, thanks for sharing it with me. After months go by, I just bought $100,000 worth." So, I mean, I've had that happen from a little to a lot. But like I said, I think it's the fact that they get, I'm going to use the $50 a month example. They're getting that email every month saying, or every week or whatever they choose, saying, "You just bought blah, blah, blah." And they go, "Oh, I wonder how that's doing." And they look. Where my friend, the example I gave, didn't look for 3 years.
Yeah.
And if I hadn't nudged him, he may still not have looked.
Yeah.
So I think you need to have them. That's why I say I think it's easy to talk someone into buying it, but to get them to understand it, really, they might say they understand it, say, "I'll buy some," but really to understand it enough that they want to keep buying and buying and buying. I mean, I bought the other day at 68,300, and I've been buying since 2017.
So Gary, I have a question for you about your experience with, you're saying that it's difficult to understand it. What was for you as somebody who hasn't grown up with technology, you haven't grown up with the internet, what do you think for you was the most difficult thing to wrap your head around to actually understand where Bitcoin is going?
I really caught it pretty quick once. Well, I had been told about it twice, but one time someone told me it was like an online stock. And they asked,
I watched that story. That was
Yeah.
great. That was a great story. Yeah.
Yeah, he cost me millions of dollars. But finally, I was walking through a hallway. I was speaking at a podcasting or marketing conference. I was walking in a hallway, and a friend of mine was talking to other people. And I came in halfway through the conversation. But during my conversation part, I heard he said it's the missing protocol. He said it's the only protocol the internet doesn't have. We have one for images, one for video, one for sound. But we didn't have one for money. And I was really a big internet marketer. I had 20 e-commerce sites. So
Yeah.
that really interested me. A protocol for the internet I don't know about. So when he got through talking, 5 minutes later or so, our mutual friends just said, "Well, thanks for telling us about it." So walked away. And I don't know that they've bought to this date. But I said, "Hey,
Well,
I missed half of that. Could you tell me about it?" And we sat on the couch. This was at 1 o'clock, and at 6 o'clock, the conference was ending, and we were still on that couch talking about Bitcoin because that internet protocol is what got to me. And to me, once it was explained properly, not as online stocks or something stupid, once it was explained to me properly, I got it immediately. I mean, I didn't see where it was at. I didn't understand everything, but I went home and basically bought Bitcoin.
Yeah.
He showed me how to put it on a wallet. I think I bought a open dime. Yeah, I bought an
Okay.
open dime from him for $30 and transferred some Bitcoin to the open dime. And then I went home and went to Coinbase because that was about it that I knew of. Coinbase, only had what Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Litecoin back then. And I started buying right away. And as time would go by, since I was so interested in getting invested in it fast, I started researching it immediately at a high level, I feel like, and it's funny. That was 2017. Here it is, 2024, and still 80% of the content I watch is about Bitcoin or something financially that could affect Bitcoin, but it's all, in that field. It's amazing how that rabbit hole really never ends,
Yeah, you can
no
keep
matter.
learning and learning and learning. Like there's always going to be something new. I've been listening to podcasts for maybe the last 3 years. I've been trying to spend as much time as I can for just to learn, just to figure out where this is going, and I'm still learning new things. Exactly like your experience there.
Yeah, and sometimes you'll like I listen, I don't read, but I was listening to the Bitcoin Standard the other day. And I think that may have been the first book I read because Safe, when Safe first came out with his book, I think the first stop he made to sell his books or whatever was BitBlock Boom.
Wow.
Because he had a book signing in Detroit coming out of New York or wherever he was living, and he flew down to our event and did his books there, and then flew to his event Tuesday in Detroit. So, but I reread that just the other day, and it was like, yeah, there was stuff in there I didn't remember from the first time listening to it. So yeah, it's a rabbit hole that never ends, and I don't think everybody's gonna. I don't think every boomer is going to get to that point where they're like wanting to hold their own Bitcoin. But you know, if you can get them down get them down the rabbit hole, not just get them to buy, get them down the rabbit hole, going down that path. That's your goal, is to start them down the rabbit hole.
Yeah, just to start thinking about it pretty much. I think that's the key, right? That's where most people don't even get past. Once you get past the thinking about it part, it makes more sense to keep thinking about it, to keep going into it, keep going down the rabbit hole. I wanted to ask you, I don't think I've seen you mention this in any of your other podcasts or on your Twitter content. Did you used to invest in before Bitcoin? Did you used to invest in anything else? Did you invest in real estate, stocks?
I just we had money we invested with Ameriprise. We just gave them. My wife handled that. Now I handle all the finances. It's funny
Oh,
how
okay.
I wasn't interested in it at all.
Yeah,
She just would take I don't know what percentage of our check, and we would just send it in every month, and trying to build it up.
yeah.
But now I've taken it over, and we were using we were paying this guy to be a financial advisor who was terrible. And now that in hindsight, I can't believe we were paying him, not just putting the money in that he could make commission off or whatever. We were actually paying him a monthly fee,
Wow.
for his advice, which was we were not getting anywhere. I mean,
Yeah.
sure, we were getting somewhere, but not like we were once we moved into Bitcoin. And then we started moving all those stocks we had and recommended packages of his, started moving it all into Bitcoin related stocks. You
Oh, so you moved
know,
everything over. Have you?
everything, everything. I'm pretty much vested in Bitcoin.
Yeah.
People have told me, I remember Greg Foss said, "Oh, don't go that high." When I told him I was all vested back in 2020, I guess, or it
Wow.
was. And yeah, but that was what I started moving everything into. And then I remember I called someone about micro strategies when it was 160, I think. And when he first said, we're going to start holding Bitcoin, I said, well, gosh, I'm not going to say who he was. Everybody knows who he is, but I don't want to that's not my goal, is to give him a hard time on air. But I called him because I knew he was really into stocks and stuff. He worked with the market at one time up in New York. And he said, Michael Saylor, I wouldn't do that. I don't think he's that smart. I wouldn't put any money in there. So, well, it sounds like a Bitcoin ETF to me. I'm not real super smart at it, but that's what it sounds like. He goes, yeah, I think you're just going to be upset if you do that. So I ended up waiting till it was like $300, to start going into it. And I wish I would have had double the amount, but I still have done well off of that. But it was money I had all just sitting in. I don't even know what it was sitting in now, to be honest with you. It was nothing
Yeah.
that I kept up with, but it's much better. But yeah, um, that's the point. I think. I know everybody says you got to really diversify super heavy,
Yeah.
which I haven't done, and it's been 4 years since I've been diversified super heavy. And I'm not a financial advisor, so no one do this on my. I'm just telling you what I did, and
Yeah.
maybe I was just lucky that worked for me. But I decided that I was so into it, and I believed in it so much. I didn't sell my house. I mean, I mortgaged my house. We mortgaged my house or anything to buy it. But I did say, I'm going to start putting this stuff in there. I can always cash out, and I keep up with it enough. It's not like I'm sitting here going, oh my gosh, are you kidding me? The market's down 25%. I didn't know that. But speaking of that, boy, your first ride down on that stuff's really kind of scary when your first ride down.
Yeah, that first
After you go,
70, 80, 80,
yeah,
70, 80% drop. That's the scary part. And I think that's what people need to really understand, that if you get through it, you'll be fine.
yeah.
You'll be okay, because this thing isn't going, I genuinely think at this point there's no way for it to go to zero. I don't think that it can go to zero.
I agree with you. I think the odds of it going to 1 million are
Yeah.
super high compared to going to zero.
Yeah.
If you were betting, man, I think you'd be crazy to bet zero rather than 1 million. And
Yeah.
as I tell you, I said, the only way to kill it is to turn the internet off. And as soon as you turn it back on, there it is.
Yeah.
It's not like the world's going to go without internet forever. If it does, we are in way more trouble than you need than you're worried about. And whether
That's
you had
exactly it.
stocks or whatever, you'd still be out of them.
Yeah,
You know?
I mean, if you have stocks, you can't access them. You can't do anything with them. You don't even have full custody of your stocks. So when the internet does come back up, you need to find a way to connect with your brokerage, with all those firms and all. You don't know if they've connected to the internet. What if they haven't connected? So you're kind of your money's gone.
Yeah, and we had this is kind of crazy. I sold a business not too long ago, and we were getting paid
Hmm.
on payments. And we received a payment, and we didn't want to keep it in the bank account. And my wife, we're wanting to do some stuff besides invest it. We're 70 now. What do we got? 10, 20 years left, and we're covered. So we wanted to be able to do some things. So we put it in what over at Ameriprise. I was talking to him. I said, Kathy wants to put it in something that's going to make something. He goes, well, put it in a money market account or whatever. And you can get it out, whatever you want, and you'll make 5% or whatever, and you can get it out immediately. I said, okay, I can go for that if I can get it out immediately. Because if I want to buy something, or if I decide I want more Bitcoin or whatever, I want to be able to get it quickly. So I called up. I decided to buy some more Bitcoin, and I called up. Like I said, hey, I want you to transfer this much money to my bank account. And he goes, okay, yeah, I can do that. And it was Friday. He goes, oh, it's after 3. I can't do it until Monday. Well, I'm supposed to be able to get within 24 hours, right? But I call him on Friday. Got to wait till Monday. Oh, Monday is Memorial Day or something. So you got to wait till Tuesday before I can put the order in. So Tuesday, I put the order in, and I got it Wednesday. So how quick is that? I mean, I could have had my Bitcoin in the account Monday morning when the bank, or Tuesday morning when the bank opened. I guess I still wouldn't have had it because the bank was closed. But it wasn't that fast. It's definitely not faster than getting your Bitcoin. You
Yeah,
know,
because it has to settle. It has to go through all the process of just moving hands and all that. They have to update their books. It's a massive
yeah.
headache. The settlement used to take 3 days before. Was it 3 days or 2 days? It was much. It was longer before than it is now. Now it takes one day, I think. But settlement used to take even longer, which is crazy.
That is crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah, I bet they made a ton off the float on that with all that kind
yeah,
of money.
absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
Hey, I wanted to ask you, do you think, let's say somebody is in their 50s, 60s, do you think they're too late to start buying Bitcoin? I mean, in your experience, you weren't, but I'm saying
No,
like
not
even
only
now.
do I think they're not too late. I mean,
Yeah,
I'm 69. I turned 70 in March, so I just rounded out to 70.
yeah,
So I'm 70. So what was I? 46, something like that. No, 56. Yeah, 56. Is that right? 54? Whatever. I was in my 50s. And so not only do I think you're not too late, I also think, which for many boomers, this would not be the case, but I think that putting it into a Roth is an excellent idea. Now, if you're a young guy in his 20s and 30s and you're investing money in traditional markets, you're buying an IRA, yeah, you're going to want to do a Roth. You pay the taxes on it then, but 20 years from now, or when you get 65 or whatever, and you pull it out, you don't pay any taxes on all that profit. Now, normally someone 70, like myself, buying a Roth, you're going to go, oh my gosh, I'm not getting any tax breaks now. And how much is it going to go up in 10 years? Is it going to go up that much? But with Bitcoin, yeah, it might go up a lot. I mean, a
Yeah.
ton by then. I mean, we might be talking. I still think even though I've been saying this since January, and I still think it's true, I think we can hit 100,000 by Christmas. I think that's very possible still. And I think in 200,000 next year, and in 5-6 years, $1 million. Yeah, if I bought a Roth today, which I did, my wife and I both got one this year, and in 5 years, it's $1 million or $500,000. That's a pretty good damn deal,
Yeah.
to pull that out. So yeah, not only do I think it's not too late, I think that you should. I think you should get as much as you can. I mean, but obviously I do, since that's what I've done. You know.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think, and it's worked out really well for you. Can you explain? I listened to one of your other podcasts where you were saying, Bitcoin is like you used the term keychain. I thought that was great. So what you were referring to here was, like you have the keys to your Bitcoin and you don't actually hold your Bitcoin in your wallet, because the way that people think of wallet, they think that, oh, you're holding your Bitcoin
Oh
in
yeah.
that wallet, right? I think you made a
I think
really
that's a bad
great.
term. I think that's a bad
Yes.
term. Wallets. I mean, because your Bitcoin never leaves the internet. And people
Yeah.
are thinking, oh, I got my wallet here. Well, that wallet is really just a place for your keys, your
Yeah.
keychain. And then that's what that should be called. I agree. I'm sorry. It's been so long ago since I said that. I
Of
forgot.
course.
I forgot what I said. Yeah, but keychain is a much better name for it. Wallet is the worst name for that. I mean, it's not the worst. It could be something worse. I mean, it could be called a camel. I mean, or a horse or something. But I mean, it's a terrible name for it.
Yeah.
It confuses people, like mining. I think that's a terrible name for that too, because I think that
Yeah.
confuses people too. Because immediately people go to picks and shovels,
Yeah.
and they're going, mining. How do you? And they want to understand that. And I go, look, you don't know how email works, do you? And he goes, no. I said, you use that every day, so
Yeah.
it's not really necessary to know that much about it, and especially that, if you're trying to orange pill them. I think that's a long road to go down trying to convince them into mining.
Yeah.
So, and they're not
Completely
going to
agree.
mine.
No.
They're not going to start mining.
Yeah. Can you explain what you mean by Bitcoin never leaves the internet? I
Well,
know there's a lot of people who are going to ask that. So
yeah, the Bitcoin is all on the blockchain. It's not, it doesn't leave. So it's on the blockchain. So you just have keys. You have your keys, which are like your password, which gives you access to the value of it or to it. So it's like, I guess, well, I guess I don't know what else would be
I
considered that
think
way,
even
but
even like for your house, you have your key, you can access your house.
right.
If your key gets burned or something, it's not like your key, it's not like your house burns down,
Right, right.
right?
Your house is still there. It's stuck where
Yeah.
it's at. And yeah, that's a good example. Your house is stuck on that piece of concrete where it's at, unless you
Yeah.
got a mobile home, I guess. But a
Yeah.
traditional house is stuck right there. No matter what happens, you got keys that allow you access, but your private keys allows anyone access. Just like if
Yeah.
you lost your keys on the sidewalk and your address was on it, so a big bang goes, oh, here's the keys to 20 Smith Street. And they can come
Yeah.
over and take your goods. Same
Yeah.
way, if you let people have your private keys or your password, they're going to come take all your stuff. Or
Yeah.
there's a chance that'll happen. So, that's what it is. It's your password. It's keys or your password. Not a wallet is not where it's holding the Bitcoin at. It's holding your information to access your Bitcoin.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't understand that. Even people who, so I've actually spoken to a lot of younger people. They don't quite understand that if you have the physical device, that doesn't hold your Bitcoin. That just holds your keys, your words that allow you to move your Bitcoin. It's a signing device. It's basically a device to sign your transactions, to move your Bitcoin and then sign that you're the one who's moving it. It solves something called the Byzantine generals problem. I think that was something that took me a little while to wrap my head around. I'm not going to go into that in this one. I have another
So that's
question
a
for
good
you.
thing not to go into on this one.
Yeah, it's too deep. It goes way too deep. Maybe I'll make a video or something about that later. But I want
It's a good subject. Don't get me
it
wrong.
is absolutely. Oh yeah, for sure. So there's one question that I ask every single one of my guests, and I think this is a really important question. It shows me how you think about Bitcoin, where you think it's going. What do you think are the most important downstream effects of Bitcoin? So let's say over time, for example, the money changes, how does that impact the world?
Well, you know, if Bitcoin does, I'm going to use in this example, if it does become the currency, a currency of the world, which it very
Yeah, of
possibly could,
course.
then I think that changes the whole picture of finance for everybody. Because for first time in their entire life, they have they control their own money instead of a third party. Now, that is sounds great, being your own bank. That's what you basically are. But that's a great power. I
Yeah.
mean, it's like a superpower. But as Voltaire or Peter Parker's grandpa said, with great power comes great responsibility.
Mm,
And a lot of people are so used to being taken care of by banks that they're not ready for that responsibility or that power. But I think that number one, it would cut down on inflation long term, because if that happened and it became the currency, it'd cut down on inflation because people just can't print money anymore.
yeah.
Number two, it would kill wars, because it'd be
Yeah.
like it was during the day with kings and stuff in Europe. They're running out of money. Those wars only lasted a couple of years for the most part, I think. I'm not a great historian there, but I don't think they were at war like we will have been since the 70s, for
Yeah.
the most part. Maybe we had a little time off, but not much. So they can't just print money. They can't just print Bitcoin. So they've got to use it responsibly. I think it would change life for the better for everyone. Not just
Yeah.
the fact that, and I'm not just saying the fact that some people are going to get rich, and I think that's what a lot of people's goals are. And I don't mind having money, and I'm happy with how it's done for me. So I'm not negative on that. I'm just saying that's not what I'm saying is going to change the world. It's the fact that governments are going to have a budget whenever that happens. Because I think eventually it will happen. I think
Yeah.
eventually, whether it's 50 years from now, 10 years from now, or 100 years from now, eventually it's going to happen. It's going to become the currency of the world. We'll have one currency. Why not? We have one of a lot of things, and when you get back to the protocol part, we have one protocol for photos, one protocol for sound, all across the world. So it's just natural. If this is the internet protocol, internet's not going anywhere. It's just going to get better and better and faster and faster, that it would become used worldwide. And
Can
and
you,
and if and Trump's, I'm not saying Trump yes or no. I'm
of
just
course.
saying he's talking about not taxing if you buy something with Bitcoin. Oh my gosh, you
Yeah.
know what that's going to do? If you don't pay any capital gains, oh my gosh, that could change things really quick.
Yeah. Can you go into more into your second point there, how Bitcoin kills war? I think that's a really important topic. A lot of people need to know about this. People don't quite understand.
Yeah,
They can't make the connection because it's so abstract. Like, how does changing the money stop us from going into wars? I think that's something that a lot of people don't quite get, and they've even said to me, "Oh no, they're completely different. They have nothing to do with one another. How are you even making this connection?"
yeah, I think it's an easy connection to make, and maybe I'm just feeble-minded. I don't know, but whenever you have wars, you have to spend money. You have to spend
Yeah.
money on arms, on defensive stuff, on troops, on blah blah blah. There's a lot of expenses involved with wars, especially today when you're talking missiles that cost $1 million each. Now, where's that money coming from? I mean, realistically, it's not like it's just coming. Well, it is just coming out of thin air. But
Yeah.
that making money out of thin air is adding to the supply of money that there is, which is adding to inflation, which is a tax that steals money from you, steals money from me. Inflation is just a tax on us.
Yeah.
It's a hidden tax. So if you're making weapons that cost $1 million a piece, and that's probably cheap, to be honest with you, that money is coming from somewhere, and it's coming from us through taxes, inflation, and stuff like that. Now, with Bitcoin, there's a limited supply of Bitcoin. I mean, it's not like gold. And actually, even though gold, they do find like 2% more gold every year, we still weren't blowing money with gold like we do now. I mean,
Yeah.
we weren't going through it like water like we do now. The deficit wasn't going up trillions of dollars every year, with gold. And that's not even as limited as Bitcoin. So if we were on a Bitcoin standard, once you're out of Bitcoin, you're out of Bitcoin. You got to get some more of it. You're not just going to
Yeah.
make more of it. So that's going to decrease your spending. And like I said earlier, when you looked at the European wars, I mean, most of them only lasted a couple of years because they were running out of money. And they said, we got to get this over with. We're running out of money.
Yeah.
Where now that thought doesn't even come up into play. I don't think anyone involved with war goes, oh, we're running out of money. That doesn't even come up to play.
Yeah, because
So
now you can just create more. Now you
yeah,
just keep borrowing more.
I think the industrial war machine is just, I mean, they're benefiting more than anyone else for sure. The
Yeah,
weapons makers and the people who are making money off war. There are a lot of people making money off of war,
yeah,
So that's why I say it is if you only had 100 of something and something costs you 140, you're going to go, wait a second, I only got just like our budgets at home. If
yeah,
you got $1,000 and you need to buy something that's $1,400, you go, well, I can't afford that. I'll buy
yeah.
the cheaper version of that. Oh, it's $1,000 for the cheaper version, but you're not going to. Well, some people do, I guess, spend more than they have, and I you know, but on that spending more that you have that I brought up that you didn't ask for,
No,
I
that's
think
great.
that I think
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
something about Bitcoin going down that rabbit hole
yeah.
is it teaches you stuff like, oh man, I don't want to put money on credit cards,
Yeah.
and pay this 20% interest and take me 10 years to pay off this measly purchase. I
Yeah,
mean,
I actually think on a Bitcoin standard there isn't going to be consumer debt because it's just not going to be worth it. So let's say you have a bank. Again, this is based on the assumption that eventually we go to a Bitcoin only standard, and let's say we don't use fiat anymore. So in this case, I don't, maybe that's too abstract. Maybe that's probably not going to happen. But whatever it is, I actually think it wouldn't be worth it for banks to give out loans because if they give you a loan, if they lend you Bitcoin, they don't know if you're going to pay them back. If you don't pay them back, then they're screwed. Today, if you don't pay them back, they can just print more. They
yeah.
can get bailed out, right? I mean, I actually don't think there's going to be consumer loans on a Bitcoin standard. I think people are going to be saving for everything: houses, cars, uh, whatever they want to buy, right? And that's
It's so hard to spend
yeah,
Bitcoin. Not that it's hard to spend Bitcoin, but the future.
yeah,
And I think a bank would be that way. They know what the future is going to bring for a limited supply item like Bitcoin. And you're going,
yeah,
man, if I spend this today, I have a friend that bought a pair of sunglasses, a pair of Oakley sunglasses back in like Bitcoin was like a dime or something, and he was
yeah.
mining it. And he wanted to buy something with Bitcoin because it was Bitcoin. He wanted to buy something. And he bought like $150 pair of Oakley sunglasses with him. And now he has them on his fireplace in a
Wow.
plexiglass case. And if you come over and you're a Bitcoiner, sure you want to see $1 million pair of sunglasses,
Yeah,
there they are right there. So I mean, he found out the hard way, but that's the truth, though, isn't it? You
yeah,
buy that something stupid, so people are going to quit wasting money on stupid stuff. They're going to
yeah,
think financially different about stuff. They're not going to go like some people go. Some people go. I had someone say this the other day. They said, "Well, you can't take it with you." I go, "Well,
yeah,
Bitcoin, yeah, you can't take it with you, but you don't want to blow it because next year it might be worth double." So
yeah,
you don't want to spend it on stupid stuff like a T-shirt, or you go to a concert and spend $50 on a T-shirt and you go, wow, do I want $50 worth of Bitcoin or do I want that T-shirt? And you
yeah.
go, I think I'll not do the T-shirt. I got plenty of shirts and I'll buy that Bitcoin. Your thinking changes on that.
And I there was something that you were so I did the calculation about the glasses. They're worth $70 million today.
No.
The Bitcoins are 70 million. It's insane. I want to ask you, are you okay with talking about what you think is going to happen with the elections? I guess they're
Yeah, yeah,
today.
yeah. Yeah,
So,
I'm pretty open. I
oh,
mean,
perfect. So I want to ask you, if Trump were to be elected versus Kamala Harris, what do you think is going to happen to Bitcoin?
yeah. First of all, I think no matter who gets elected, it's going to go up.
Yes,
I think if Trump gets elected, I think today is a good example. I mean, let me pull out my phone real quick.
of
But I
course.
think what is Bitcoin right now? $70,091. So last night when I went to bed, it was 67,000. So
Yeah,
I kind of feel like a lot of smart money thinks that Trump's going to win. I'm not saying he is or not. We'll know tomorrow. But I think if Trump wins, that's a sign, and it's going to go up immediately. I do. I think that if Harris wins, we may have a drop off for a short amount of time and it go up. But I think no matter who, I mean, if you take the last happenings, every time after the elections, whether it was a Democrat or a Republican, Bitcoin's gone up pretty good
yeah,
amount. So
yeah,
I don't see anything that would stop that today. And I know that the Biden administration has not been a big supporter of Bitcoin. They haven't done anything positive for Bitcoin. So maybe Harris is going to follow that route where Trump is announcing all the Bitcoin stuff he's going to do, which, gosh, I'm pretty much a one person, one item voter right now in my
Yeah.
life. And I like all the Bitcoin stuff he's saying for damn sure.
Yeah.
So where I haven't seen Harris say anything, not she hasn't said great stuff like he has for Bitcoin, but she hasn't said a lot of negative either. So
No.
I don't know where she's standing on it. She must be standing, she could pick up a lot of voters. So I mean, there's a lot of people like me who this are one issue voters right now, and
Yeah.
it makes a tremendous difference in their life.
So either way, you think it's going to skyrocket.
Yeah,
I completely agree with you. I think it's going to go, I actually think it's going to go to millions of dollars in the
yeah.
coming years. And I think that's inevitable, regardless
Well,
of who gets elected.
I'm still thinking 100 by Christmas, and what I
Yeah.
only have
100,000.
7 weeks left. So, and I
Yeah.
still haven't changed that thought since the beginning of the year.
Yeah. But
Um,
that's how it happens, right? It just skyrockets. It moves
yeah,
sideways,
I
right?
think there's like if you were in the Bitcoin, and you got in and out and in and out, and you were out of it on 20 selected days during the year, you wouldn't make any money.
Yeah.
It's like in 2017, I think, on Thanksgiving, it was $7,500, and by
2017.
Christmas, it was 19,000, or January the 1st. Looks like
Wow.
such a small blip now, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And I'm just using memory there, but I think, like I said, I think if you were at the Thanksgiving table, I think it was about $7,500 Thanksgiving, and by Christmas it was on fire, and it was like closer to 20.
Oh, yeah. There you go. Around Thanksgiving, around the middle of November.
Yeah, so
I
that's
think
almost
Thanksgiving's,
tripling. That's 2.5 times
yeah.
in a month and a half, and not even a month and a half. I mean, that was
Yeah.
Thanksgiving. So there's no reason it can't double or go up
Yeah.
50% by Christmas.
Yeah. I think so too. I actually think by the end of this year, 100K is. I wouldn't be surprised with 100K, to be honest.
Yeah. Well,
I
like I
I
said,
think
I see no reason to change what I said in January.
yeah,
Um, and so I agree. And like I said, if we had 100 by Christmas, if Trump wins and does all the things, for instance, if he takes taxes off of Bitcoin when you buy something with it,
yeah,
oh my gosh, that's automatically a better investment than going in the stock market and paying capital gains
exactly.
automatically. I
Yeah,
mean, who that has $1 billion isn't going to go, well, gosh, I got to throw some in this. I don't have to pay any taxes,
yeah.
if I spend it. I mean, to me, that's my thinking.
It's basically like having an unlimited Roth IRA,
Yes,
right?
you're right. You're
Right?
right.
Because
Exactly.
you don't have to sell, you don't have to exchange it for anything. You don't have to report the transactions. It's just no taxes.
Yeah, you don't have to have it in an IRA.
Yeah,
It is an unlimited Roth
yeah,
IRA. Yeah,
yeah,
and people who have money, I mean, people who have money are already buying this stuff. I mean,
yes,
let's face it. If you'd have told me just 2 years ago there would be as much money as there is in the ETFs, or even that we'd have ETFs. I mean, or if you would have told me that we'd have countries buying Bitcoin, oh my gosh, or corporations buying Bitcoins. I
yeah,
mean, I truly think that, the shame of it is a lot of people didn't get into it and haven't got into it, and they're going to have to get into it, and they'll realize it. And then, they'll be buying it from the banks and from, people of high value that have a ton of it.
yeah.
So
Hey, Gary, did you see the ETFs hit 1 million Bitcoin?
no, I did not.
Insane,
Well, that is insane. 1 million Bitcoin. That's
right?
insane.
And they'll keep going. It's not like they're going to stop. I think they're actually going to accelerate. Like if we look at the flows, I was actually taking a look at this yesterday. It seems like it's accelerating.
Well, every day they buy like a couple of weeks worth of Bitcoin.
Yeah,
I
a
mean,
couple
at
weeks worth of
minimum.
production.
Uh,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. So I mean, sooner or later, they've got to run up. They must. I believe there's probably the smallest amount of Bitcoin on exchanges there's ever been, or has been since it started. I mean, since it started, when there's less maybe, but
yeah,
we're at an all-time low for Bitcoin on exchanges. So it's just a matter that this thing starts taking off at some point, like it's on fire. I mean,
yeah,
there are so many positive things for it that it's just a matter of time before it takes off like it's on fire.
yeah.
Um, And like I
So,
said, I hate to see, something else getting off subject here I've
oh
started
yeah,
doing on times like this that we're coming up with. And I'm saying this because I want to recommend this to people. I have people calling me back in 2020 who I had actually had a girl I knew and I had not seen since fourth grade call me
well,
and wanted to talk to me about Bitcoin. And I mean, I get so many people contacting me wanting me to explain Bitcoin, and they just want to understand it, I guess. But I really don't want to sit here and waste an hour and a half with someone on the phone. I said, thanks. I'm just curious what it was. So now when someone the other night said, hey, my friend want to know about Bitcoin, and I thought it was okay. I told him he could email me. I said, sure. But, what I do now is they have to buy $100 worth of Bitcoin and send me proof that they bought $100 worth. If I don't
before
know
you
them,
explain
or
it.
yeah. Now, if it's like my friend down the street or someone I see all the time, that's different. But if I'm going to sit here on the phone
Yeah,
or Zoom or whatever, talking to someone I haven't seen in 20 years, yeah, they're going to have to prove that they're really serious. And then
yeah,
I'll help them all I can. But if they're not serious, I don't want to like give them information so they can just stand at the water cooler and go, yeah, I know about Bitcoin. I
yeah,
mean, I got better things to do. And so
yeah.
I feel like I'm forcing them to buy Bitcoin.
Yeah. No, I think that's a good way to get them into it though. I think that's because a lot of people they have I've gotten a lot of messages as well, people asking me whether or not they should buy it, what it is. And I want them because I've spent a lot of time explaining it to people, but then they end up not even buying it.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Right.
At least ways I know they've got it. And if
Yeah.
they're that lazy, at least they're just going to hold on to their $100. I say
Yeah.
100. Yeah, there may be, maybe someone who's 20, their friends don't have $100. Maybe they need to make them buy $20 worth.
Yeah.
But you got to make sure they're seriously interested in it and just not bored and have nothing else to do. In my case, because a lot of them are retired and have nothing to do,
Yeah.
so they're looking to talk to somebody. So
Yeah.
that's what I've started doing is tell them they have to buy some. They don't have to buy from any place with my affiliate link or not. I'm not
Of course.
doing that. I just want to have some skin in the game.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's a great way to do it. I think we're almost at time here. You said that you have another meeting right after this. Can you give us can you give my audience your just some last words, some words of wisdom about what they should do with Bitcoin, where what they should know, anything that you think, because you just gave a great tip here that we just went on a tangent. That was great. But I think any more tips like that, anything else that people can learn?
Well, I like I said, I just think that if you're new into Bitcoin or you're not into Bitcoin, you need to get some skin in the game.
Yeah,
Most boomers, really, us boomers grew up maybe in one of the best financial times to grow up as a kid and an adult. You could buy a house, affordably. You could sock away money a
yeah,
lot easier, and if someone doesn't have Bitcoin, I think they should highly consider, like I said, again, I'm not a financial advisor, at least putting 1% in Bitcoin. I mean, oh
yeah,
my gosh. If you're sitting back on your investments and it goes down 1% in a day, I don't think there's anyone going, oh my gosh, I'm down 1%. I don't know if I can sleep tonight. So
yeah.
put 1%, whether you got to do an ETFs or whatever, but you need to get some skin in the game and really you want to hold your own Bitcoin. But I know that's not really what you were looking for there, but
No, no, that's
that's
great. That's actually awesome. I think that's perfect because I wanted to talk about that. I actually forgot to ask you. So there's the fact that you just mentioned that worked out perfectly. I wanted to show you a spreadsheet that I made just so that people. I know there's going to be a lot of people who see this. They're going to be thinking, "Oh, what's 1% going to do? 1% is irrelevant. It's nothing." But I made a spreadsheet here just explaining. Actually, your point it works out perfectly here. So if you start off with 1% allocation to Bitcoin in your portfolio, you're going to end up with, after 20 years, you're going to end up with 60%,
yeah.
right?
There you
Because of the
go.
performance. And this
Yeah,
assumes that we have 35% returns for the next 10 years and then 30 for the next 10 years. And you're only buying once. You're buying 1% once. You're buying $1. If you have $100 portfolio, you're buying $1 worth once, and then you're never buying again. You're just leaving it as is. You get to 60%. That's crazy. But then
that
you
is
go to
crazy.
if you go to 5%, you end up with 88% in Bitcoin.
Well, I think that happens at a
Yeah,
point that people start buying more once they get in there.
exactly. With 10%, you end up with 94%. Like that's just it blows my mind because let's say you were to do like just like your point there. If you were to put 5% or even 1%, it's not like you're gonna be hurt if it goes to zero,
Yeah, you're not going to
right?
lose any sleep over it.
Yeah.
You might be upset if it went to zero, I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
he probably would be, but yeah, gosh, I shouldn't have listened to Gary. That
Yeah.
was a bad move on my part, trusting Gary to know what he's talking about. But it's not like you're going to lose any sleep because you see your
Yeah.
money go down 1% all the time,
Yeah. Yeah.
and go
Or
up all the.
honestly, like your friend, maybe they might even forget about it, right? They might forget
Yeah.
about it and then they come back to it 5 years later and then they see that, oh, this thing is actually doing what Gary said that it would do. Gary was right. Maybe I should talk to Gary and learn and buy some more.
Whenever I talk to someone who I did convince into buying Bitcoin back then, they're really happy.
Yeah,
I mean,
of
they're
course.
like, "Oh my gosh, you're so smart! I would have never known about this."
Always. Yeah.
So yeah, you got to get some skin in the game. This isn't going anywhere.
Yeah.
It's not disappearing. You have what Bank of New York, Mellon Bank of New York now can custody Bitcoin. So you have
Yeah.
basically banks owning Bitcoin, corporations owning Bitcoin, countries owning Bitcoin, and people owning Bitcoin. But the difference between this and everything else that's ever happened, this is the first thing like this that regular Joe Blows could own before corporations owned.
Yeah.
Where with like stocks, for instance, all the corporations got to own it, and then the peons got to buy into it. This
Yeah.
is the reverse of that. All the peons got to buy into it first,
Yeah.
and still can buy into it at a good price, even though it seems high. It's not. It's just the people who bought at $100 said, "Man, I'm too late. I could have got this at $5." The
Yeah.
people who bought it $1,000 said, "Oh my gosh, I'm too late. I could have bought this at $100." The people that bought it 10,000 did the same, and the people who buy at 100,000 will do the same. The people will always say, "Oh my gosh, look how much it's gone up. I could have bought this later," but it's still going to have the same increase. It's still
Yeah.
going to go up over time. So you're not going to be late at 100,000. You're not going to be late at 200,000. In my
Amazing.
opinion. Yeah.
I think regardless of what the price is, you're always going to think it's expensive in the moment,
Yeah, yeah. No one's ever
right?
bought it. No one literally, I doubt anyone's ever bought it. As soon as they bought it, said, "Wow, this was the best deal ever. This was a
Yeah.
great value. This
Yeah.
stuff was," even the people who bought it for a nickel was going, "Man, this is made up internet money." That's what my wife used to tell me. "Can't believe
Yeah.
we're putting all this money in this made up internet money,"
Yeah.
when I first started buying it. So, and then everybody, how many people have panicked when it dropped, like we said earlier? You buy it for $1,000 and it drops to $250.
Yeah.
You're like, "Oh man, this was a dumbass move." But
Yeah.
but the people who held on, did fine.
And you
It's
only hold on to it if you study it. You can't hold on if you don't study, if you don't understand what it is.
Yeah, and sometimes people will come up to me and they'll go, "Do you do like I do with my stocks? When it doubles, I sell half." I go,
Yeah.
"No, I
Yeah.
definitely don't do that."
Yeah.
I mean, because it's going to keep doubling and doubling and doubling.
Exactly.
But they have no idea what it is if they say that.
That's it. That's it.
Yeah,
That's one thing that I've noticed. If they say things like that, they don't quite understand what it is.
yeah. It's
Gary,
it's a hard thing for most people to grasp their mind around,
yes.
especially boomers. Um, they don't have their friends all talking about it, not picking up little pieces of information here. Hell, they actually think it's a coin you got in your pocket.
Yeah.
So I
Like a
mean,
physical coin, yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's harder for them, I think, than anybody. I'm sure as these kids now, like my grandkids who are 7 and 10, as they start hitting in their 20s, oh my gosh, they're going to have an understanding about it, like probably better than I do, even.
Yeah.
Just because it's going to be such a normal part of the world. I mean, it's going to be an everything that they think that everybody uses.
Yeah. Yeah. But even, I mean, with that being said, I actually think that they're not going to understand it as well as you do. Because how many people understand the fiat currency system, but they use it every
Right.
day? Right?
Yeah, that's true. But
Right?
just like how many people understand email. I mean, I
Yeah.
understand anything. But
Exactly.
when everybody's using it, they just use it because
They
it's
just use it.
accepted. Yeah, it's accepted. Hey, can I mention BitBlock Boom real quick?
Of course. No, no. I was actually going to ask you, where can my audience find you and all that?
Yeah, well, first thing is I'm Gary Leland everywhere. That's pretty much where you go. If you look, Gary Leland's my handle. But I do run BitBlock Boom at bitblockboom.com. It's the world's oldest Bitcoin conference, Bitcoin only conference. So if you use the code Gary, you'll save some money on that. So check out bitblockboom.com. It's next April. And I'm feeling by next April, we're going to have a pretty excited audience at BitBlock Boom.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And is there anywhere else that my audience can find you? I think you're on Twitter.
Well, I spend most of my time on Twitter. Yeah.
Oh, perfect.
So yeah, that's where I spend most of my time. I've got an account everywhere, but I don't even look at Instagram, LinkedIn, or any of those. So
Yeah.
Twitter is the place if you want to follow me.
And you're very quick at responding. So if anybody does have questions, anybody wants to have set up a
But
podcast or something.
if you're on there
Yeah,
all the time, it's no reason not to respond. That's for sure.
absolutely.
Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely. Gary, I really appreciate you. I appreciate your time here. Was there anything else, any last words that you wanted to say?
No, just get off zero, dudes.
That's
Get
it.
off zero. I mean, you've
That's
got to
it.
do that.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter how old you are, you still need to get off zero.
Yeah.
And so many boomers, this is something that's true too. So
Yeah.
many people that are old, are so worried about leaving stuff for their kids. They really are. I know boomers get a hard time about that, but they really are. I'll talk to people all the time, and like we have one friend who, her child married this super rich guy. I mean, super rich guy. He bought a $20 million house before he sold his other $20 million house,
Wow.
and she's like taking her measly paycheck and saving money for the grandkids' college fund. Now,
Wow.
like really, they don't need the money for the college fund, but there are so many people like that are so worried about spending their money because they want to make sure they leave stuff for their kids. And if that's the case, then you really need to get into Bitcoin because you
Yeah.
can really multiply what you're going to leave those kids. If that's your goal is in life is to make sure that your kids have everything that you have, then you really need to put it into Bitcoin and
Yeah.
take care of them and your grandkids, your great grandkids, your great great grandkids. It could take care of generations because it can create generational wealth. I
Yeah.
mean, not just wealth. We're talking it can create generational wealth, and that's a
Yeah.
whole different deal. I
I have
mean,
one last question for you, actually. I just thought of this. How much do you think a house is going to cost in terms of Bitcoin in, let's say, 20 years? Right now,
oh my
just to
gosh,
put it in perspective, a house right now costs about 7 to 10 Bitcoin.
yeah, yeah. Well, gosh, it wasn't that long ago. It was like 100 Bitcoin. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
So I would guess less than a Bitcoin. That's a good
Less
way
than a
of
Bitcoin.
looking at the value of a Bitcoin. Yeah, I'm sure
Yeah.
it'll be less than a Bitcoin. Well, if Bitcoin's $1 million, I mean, Bitcoin's moving at a faster rate than inflation, in
Much faster.
value.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so if Bitcoin goes to 1 million in the next 5 years, what's an average house cost now? I don't even know what an average house costs. four hundred
Four or five
thousand.
hundred.
Yeah, yeah, 400 or 500. So let's say a house could be 900,000 or 1 million. So
Yeah.
that'd be a Bitcoin. Yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I could see it. I could see a Bitcoin. One of my kids, you know, is gonna gonna pay for her kids' colleges, both her kids' colleges from Bitcoin.
Wow.
So
Just by saving it.
yeah, yeah, yeah. She didn't have a ton, but it's enough to that by the time her kids in 10 years, it'll be able to pay for her kids' college fund,
And then some, I would guess, because
Yeah.
I think it's going to blow people's minds. I think over the next 10 years, because like most people have no allocation.
Yeah. People like you and I see that.
Yeah.
But most of the world, less than 3% of the planets into Bitcoin, or 3% of the United States, I can't remember which
Yeah.
one it is, has any Bitcoin.
Yeah.
So when this happens, that means 97% of the people on the planet have to get some.
Yeah.
And there's not enough for everybody to own one. I
Yeah.
mean, let's face it, Michael Saylor has 250,000. He took a lot away
Yeah.
from people.
Yeah.
And $1 million in these ETFs, there's a lot taken away. And Satoshi Nakamoto has 1 million. There's a lot taken away. There's not a
Yeah.
lot of Bitcoin. 4 million are lost. There's
Yeah.
not a lot of Bitcoin. People just don't understand what they got here.
Yeah. And I think they're not going to understand it until it's a little too late. I think they're not
Yeah.
even too late. I think not even too late, but they're not going to I think most people aren't even going to pay attention to this until it hits $1 million. That's just how I see it.
Yeah, and then they'll be kicking themselves in the butt.
Yeah.
And then people don't like to be that wrong.
Yeah.
It's like but some people turn around like Mark Cuban. He said at one time he'd rather have a banana than any Bitcoin. And now he's like into crypto, or I don't know if
Yeah.
he's into Bitcoin, but he's like changed his opinion.
Yeah.
On currency. Uh, I don't know if he's into Bitcoin or not, though. To be honest with you,
Yeah.
but I
I
know
think
that
he's
he's
into
not
crypto
saying.
as well.
I know he wouldn't like to have a banana more any longer.
No, definitely not. Even Michael Saylor was one of those people who said Bitcoin is going the way of, I think he said he's going the way of online gambling.
Yeah, online casinos and stuff.
He
Yeah, yeah.
completely changed his
But he
mind.
changed his mind. Yeah,
Yeah.
and he changed it in a big way. That,
Yeah.
so yeah, like I said, once you see it, it's hard to see. And the
Yeah.
older you are, I think the harder it is to see. But once you put your Bitcoin glasses on and you see it, you can never unsee it.
You can't
You
unsee it.
know,
Yeah.
once you do it, you can never unsee it. But
That's
it
it.
is difficult to see.
Yeah. Completely agree. Gary, I really appreciate it. I want to respect your time here. I know you have another meeting. I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much for joining.
Well, thanks for giving me 5 minutes to get to the other one. I appreciate that. You could have held me up to
Absolutely.
the last minute there. I appreciate it.
Of course.
And I've enjoyed meeting you. I'm sure we'll see each other in the future now that we've met in person. And I have seen your show on YouTube, I believe, before.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, yeah. It's been in my feed for the last couple of weeks there. I didn't know that was
Oh,
you.
yeah, that's me.
Um,
That's me.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And you've got a good show too. So congratulations
Appreciate
on
it.
your show.
I
Yeah,
appreciate, I
yeah.
really do
And
appreciate that. Thank you.
keep sharing that information. You're doing God's work, you know.
Absolutely. I think this episode is going to do really well. I think a lot of people are going to find a lot of value here because I know experience, it trumps everything, right? Having somebody with experience on my show is just the best thing there.
Yeah, well, I'm happy to come on. I'm happy to come on people's shows. You know, I remember when I first was starting, when I first started podcasting, what, 20 years ago or something. That was like one of the first, probably 50 podcasters on the planet back when I started. And it was so exciting when I used to
Yeah.
get asked to be on someone's show. You know, it
Yeah.
was like, oh my gosh, this guy wants me on his show, you know, to
Yeah.
talk about podcasting because it was so new. So I enjoy talking to people. I enjoy meeting people. You know, when I go to a conference, we'll run into each other at a conference for sure, and we'll be able to
Absolutely.
chat some more. But yeah, yeah, I enjoyed it. Thanks a lot.
Absolutely. Appreciate your time, Gary. Thank you so much.